everybody. Welcome to the Busted Business Bureau. You're actually listening to Season 3. I'm so excited to be here. This podcast is produced by the Lincoln Lodge. I'm Christian Borky, and I am joined by two spectacular people who you have heard on the podcast before. First of all, I have struggling internet celebrity and budding Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. It is Blender Bluid.
Let's go sell drugs.
Yeah. And to my other side, I have some lady, Amy Do.
I'm also a known drug dealer.
This is going to be a spectacular season of podcasting. Let me tell you why. First of all, the episodes are coming out twice a week. Second of all, the whole thing is going to be about one topic. I tried making a season finale for season 2. Didn't quite work out because I just kept writing more and more. So you're going to get 8 fucking hours of content about Monsanto. Skew!
Hell yeah, brother.
I'm telling you, I'm really into bluegrass right now.
Jesus Christ.
Let me spend some time hyping up this season. It's a true spiritual successor to everything that I did in season 2. Okay. It's war profiteering, animal abuse, history in the 1800s, early 1900s, food, big data, environmental degradation, horrific employee and labor rights stories.
Delicious.
Hell, I might even throw some musical theater in.
Oh, shit.
Monsanto is that girl. Even though this is only, it's 8 hours of content, it's still hardly a cursory glance at just how bad it is.
Oh, no.
So, Amy and Bluid, how we feeling?
I am feeling so ready, and I did start the group chat exchange about this. Well, first of all, it was wild because we got a text from Christian saying, do you want to be in a season finale episode? Yeah. And we both said yes. And then about 48 hours passed, and then another text came that said, it might be like 3 episodes. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then another 48 hours passed, and I was out of state, and then I looked down at my phone, and the text was, it's going to be an entire season, and I think there are going to be 8 episodes. Are you still in? So what happened? Did you just like start researching and like it kept happening?
I knew it was going to be a lot when I made it, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe like a 2 or 3 part thing, and then I was like, okay, how about 6? And then I was like, wait a minute. How about 8?
I love this for us.
I love this for us. You two are fantastic sports. Spectacularly good sports, yeah.
I love sports.
I want to open this episode.
Okay.
This is going to be kind of an overview of Monsanto from 1901, its founding, to its eventual acquisition by Bayer in 2018. Mm-hmm. That is the whole life cycle of Monsanto. We're going to do a high-level overview of like what sort of things happened. I'm going to open with a quote from Marie Monique Robbins' The World According to Monsanto. In the foreword by Nicholas Hurot, you're introduced to the book with the following. Quote, as I progressed in my reading of Marie Monique Robbins' book, a flood of weighty questions overwhelmed me, filling me with anxiety that I might sum up in a single question. How is this possible?
Oh, no. It was busted already.
How can Monsanto, the emblematic firm of global agrochemistry, have made so many fatal mistakes? And how can it have marketed products so harmful to human health and to the environment? How has the company succeeded in conducting its business as though nothing has happened, constantly extending its influence and wealth despite the tragedies and problems it has caused? How is it so quietly managed to continue its activities unconcerned and fool everyone? Why has it been able to carry on despite the heavy legal penalties it suffered and despite the bans imposed on them of some of its products? Unfortunately, after they had caused all of the harm. So that is how he starts the book.
Oh, my God.
Sounds like a hater, dude.
He starts out being like, what the fuck am I reading right now?
What incarnation?
So, come on, Bluegrass. So, again, episode 1, we're going over the broad strokes to answer that question. It's going to be about the business history, acquisitions, mergers, important contracts they've accrued over time, and finally the political lobbying mechanism that allowed Monsanto to retain its gorilla grip on human food systems.
That's what we do out here in the streets.
Now, every episode in the season will be standalone, but I would recommend listening to this one just so you know kind of what the fuck is going on.
Right.
Yes.
It's syllabus week.
It's syllabus week. And let's start. And honestly, syllabus week is going to be fucking horrific already. So, this is a great project for me personally because Monsanto was one of those things that I could say I knew it was fucked up, but I never really knew, like, how.
Mm-hmm.
Just being, kind of around, and I read. I go on Twitter.
Right.
I've heard of Monsanto.
It's like a buzzword almost at this point.
Had you two heard of Monsanto before I, reached out?
I feel like I heard of it. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah. And
Because I'm ignorant.
Not at all.
And dumb.
I think it is deliberate how little you have heard about Monsanto.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's what I would say.
So I am the product of good PR.
Exactly. But I will also then challenge the exact point of view that I just said to you with a quote from Marie Monique Robin herself about writing her seminal work. Quote, "First, I worked on the internet day and night. In fact, a great majority of the documents I cite in this book are available on the web. All one has to do is look for them and connect them, which I invite the reader to do, because it is truly fascinating. Everything is there, and no one, least of all those charged with writing the laws that govern us, can reasonably say that we didn't know." And she's calling me out because I didn't fucking know a thing before this.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is like, people just don't do research.
Yeah.
I mean, it's me. I'm people because I feel like I'm in the same boat as the both of you. Before Christian, you did all this research, and I feel like a lot of people, especially people on the internet, just like to throw around buzzwords and like names of companies, names of like social issues, problems, without actually doing the deep dive into figuring out what it means to them, which is why I think your podcast is so meaningful and powerful and also very entertaining, and I'm very happy to be here.
Plug.
Yo, stop that. Plugging my podcast on my podcast.
I'll do it.
Genius. Here's the thing, though. Once again, Monsanto was bought up by Bayer in 2018, so in busted Business Bureau terms, the company is busted, as in dead. So let's talk about the history. From 1901 to 2018, 121 years.
Oh my God.
I think. I actually did not do that math. It's actually not 121 years. There's no way that works out. That's over 100 years. Fuck you. I don't care.
Say with confidence.
It's at the Busted Math Bureau. All right. Forgive me, but most of this early section's from Wikipedia because it's certainly not the most important, but even a cursory Wikipedia glance is already fucking insane. So the founder of Monsanto is a man named John Francis Queeny. Queeny, like Queen with a Y at the end.
Oh, okay.
Born in 1859, he went on to found the company. He was born in Chicago.
Wow.
Chi-town gangsters.
hero.
Chi-town.
Being born in Chicago in 1859 is fucking nuts because he's a baby during the Civil War, and he's only barely not catching cholera his entire life because we didn't make the sewers until what, like 1901?
He was alive in the Civil War. He didn't stop racism. Fuck him.
This fucking baby didn't stop racism.
Fuck this guy.
He did not stand up for the correct side of history.
Well, hold on. When I went home for Christmas this past year, one of my best friends has a new baby sister, and the mom is like really intent on raising this child as politically correct as possible.
Sure.
Anti-racist baby.
And so literally. And so there are all of these like super like socialist picture books just lying around. And like there was one of those cardboard flip books for like the ABCs, And and it was like, A is for anarchy.
No.
Let's go.
It's like C is for capitalism.
No.
Yeah.
And so M is for Monsanto.
Damn.
You know who did not get access to that book? John Francis Queeny.
No,
because
sorry
he
to
did
this
not
baby.
stop the Civil War.
Trans-
Sorry to
Transition.
this baby.
Also, the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 forced him to find a full-time job when he was 12. That's not funny. I don't know why I laughed when I read it.
No.
But like, oh my God. It was just crazy living back then.
Chicago Fire was famously hilarious. So.
He spends the next 20 or so years working in Chicago, I assume. This is where the Wikipedia page sort of drops off, his middle part of his life. He then moves to St. Louis in 1897. St. Louis, funny enough, is the main site where Chicago's sewage winds up being, like after 1900.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Shout out to
so-
Nelly
You can
and the
take-
St. Lunatics.
You can take the boy out of Chicago, but you can't take Chicago shit out of the boy.
No, you cannot.
Anyways,
That's where the shit goes.
John Francis Queeny starts working at a drug place in 1897. Really
a drug
not
place? Like a pharmacy?
Yeah, like a pharmacy.
Okay.
And this is not all that long after like pills were invented. Like we didn't have pills.
Wait,
before
hold
then.
on.
Yeah, dog.
Only recently had we invented pills and capsules.
I literally never thought
Right?
about how pills took like time
Yeah.
to make.
This podcast specifically has made things about living in the 1800s way more real for me. Like I'm still in my 20s, so I'm still like learning about history, but the 1800s always seems so far away.
Right.
But
20 is so exotic.
20 is so slay. But we're talking about a guy who again lived through the Civil War, saw sewers invented in his lifetime, who founded a company that functionally still does exist today.
That's crazy.
So, despite being bought up by Bayer in 2018, still exists. Let's talk about his wife. Her name is Olga Mendez Monsanto.
Okay, so Olga and James?
Olga and John.
John. Okay.
She marries John Francis Queeny at some point. I don't fucking care. Her family is so important that they have their own Wikipedia page and had one of the most tangible impacts on the slave trade, as in they were slavers.
Oh
I knew
my
it.
God.
I could smell it.
They were very involved in it. They were a group of Sephardic Jewish people, which means Hispanic Jews, that settled in colonial French Louisiana during its transition into colonial Spanish Louisiana. And around that time, 1685, King Louis XIV decreed Code Noir, which had both defined the conditions of slavery in Louisiana and explicitly banned Jewish people. So they're Hispanic Jews, but again, they were so rich and such high-powered slavers, it just didn't apply to them.
Oh my God.
Damn.
Yeah. This is a very broad strokes history, so my apologies for generalizing, but I just wanted to illustrate that her family is, like, important.
Like rich.
Like rich. John Francis Queenie is a huge wife guy and a self-taught chemist, and names his burgeoning chemical company after Olga's family, Monsanto.
Wow.
Notably, this is just notable to me, their son is named Edward Monsanto Queenie, and their daughter is, I shit you not, Olgita.
Olgita. Olga, Olgita, Edward, and John.
Yes.
What a Christmas card.
This
Does he
guy's
celebrate Christmas?
He named his company and his daughter after his wife. He slays. That's
Huge wife guy. I'll say it. I love wife guys.
Shout out Chance the Rapper, dude.
He's a wife guy?
Yeah. Oh my God, loves his wife and God in that order.
My uncle is the same, except I think it's flipped because he's a minister.
Fair enough.
He's allowed to have a wife? He's a minister?
Yeah.
That's fine. Good for him.
He's not a priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I forget all the time. So here's a rough timeline of Monsanto chairs of the board. I just call them Monsanto Supremes. Okay. So John Francis Queenie is the Supreme from 1901 to 1928. When he's in charge of the company, chemicals are still, they're always exciting, but they're like a burgeoning new thing. They sell artificial vanilla, caffeine, and saccharin as their first thing.
Like sweetener? Okay.
Saccharin is an artificial sweetener that has no nutritional value. And just 20 years before Monsanto started, here's how saccharin was discovered. That has nothing to do with Monsanto, but I just really wanted to tell you guys. Yeah. Saccharin was produced first in 1879 by Konstantin Fellberg, a chemist working on coal tar derivatives. Fellberg noticed a sweet taste on his hand one evening and connected that this compound was the one that he'd been working on. So again, this guy's working with coal tar, doesn't wash his hands, licks his hand, and is like, I invented saccharin.
that's crazy.
So, artificial sweetener, well, I guess saccharin comes from coal?
Some sort of derivative of coal tar. The compound benzoic sulfamide that he'd been working on is what it was. I can give you no further scientific information than that. Other than a man was dirty as hell.
Oh, love that.
Licked his hand.
Yeah, he was like, nom, 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 nom,
and said, yum, yum, yum. Under John Francis Queenie's tutelage, Monsanto had originally started in the food additive business. So that's how Monsanto starts, is making chemicals that eventually go into food. Vanilla, cinnamon extract, whatever. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, and literally nothing else I've read, Coca-Cola was a big customer of Monsanto's in World War I years.
Okay.
By 1915, they'd surpassed 1 million in sales. So it was like immediate explosion. With the rise of Coca-Cola, Monsanto was just coming with it on its
Okay,
coattails.
that makes sense, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Shouts.
So post-World War I, it was obvious that the U.S. would no longer be getting chemicals from Europe, if I may say so myself.
It do be that way. You know that feeling? I feel like whomstead of among us can say that we have not experienced the feeling of being unable to get chemicals from Europe.
I'll tell you, on the dark web when I'm trying to get my drugs, that's exactly how I feel.
As a known drug dealer, I understand.
The thing was also, during World War I, we had stopped Germany's imports for reasons that had to do with the war, which is also how Monsanto's business kind of took off. Vis-a-vis like sweetener, vanilla, whatever. That was mostly a German export. Import, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Yeah. So like when the borders close and trade stops, then you have to source stuff from inside and then thus...
They fill the hole. Yep.
Yeah.
There it is.
Fill the hole.
I'm sorry. I called John's kid Edward, but I meant Edgar.
Oh, okay.
So, per Edgar on talking about post-World War I, quote, there was no choice other than to improvise, to invent and to find new ways of doing the old things. The old dependence on Europe was almost overnight a thing of the past. This is also why they started manufacturing aspirin in 1917. They get
they're branching out from food additives
into the pharmaceutical industry. Until the 1980s, per Marie Monique Robin, they were the largest aspirin producer from 1917 until, again, the 80s. So they sink their talons into aspirin and they fucking do it. Another important thing under John Queenie's reign as Monsanto Supreme is the incorporation of Monsanto, Illinois. It's a literal town.
No.
Hey, shout out to everybody in Monsanto, Illinois.
Well, it's now called Sauget for reasons we will talk about.
Oh,
I'm so excited to tell you about Monsanto, the town.
Okay.
The title of Fiona Eckhart's paper for Washington University in St. Louis might give you a hint as to what this town was. Quote, incorporated to be a sewer, a historical analysis of industrial pollution in Sauget, Illinois.
What?
The paper title is a spoiler, but it will eventually it will be renamed from Monsanto to Sauget. Anyways, August 7th, 1926, so John Francis Queeny is still the supreme. Monsanto incorporated a town just across from St. Louis in Illinois.
Okay, what does it mean to incorporate a town?
Like, they had a bunch of people that decided to make a residence around there. And what they functionally wanted to do, right, was create a chemical plant that they didn't have to have a lot of government regulations over. And at the time, environmental regulations were governed by local or state ordinances, not necessarily federally.
Okay. Yeah.
So they were like, if we incorporate our own town, we can just fuck around and do whatever we want.
Right, because then the people who are in charge of running the town are people who work at the company, so we can make whatever rules we want.
It's like Disney World.
Literally a company. It's literally that. Like, it's literally a company town. From Eckhart, quote, led by 47 petitioners and a handful of attorneys from Monsanto Chemical Works, this 1.65 square miles were to become home to 230 residents of the new village. I highly recommend this article because it goes over how fucking nut this town is. I don't even have time to get into it, but it's a town that is ideal for businesses because they will just let you dump whatever you want anywhere and you have to pay very little taxes. It's just a town. It's an industry town. You know what I mean? It's a town for the industry guys. They elect a guy named Leo Sauget to become the mayor. And literally since 1926, there has not been a single mayor of the town who is not a Sauget.
What?
It is the Sauget dynasty. They renamed the town Sauget in the 1960s, which it remains today. It's about a 5-hour drive from where we are right now. So we could go to Sauget today.
Let's go.
Let's go to Sauget.
A few years in, it has 300 residents in this company town. It's, again, explicitly incorporated with the purpose of being a Monsanto chemical producing factory. Because, again, we are Monsanto Chemical Works at this point.
Right.
Of course.
We will talk at length about the chemical PCB, which is manufactured here. But just putting that on your radar, PCBs.
PCB.
It's basically a chemical that allows us to manufacture the following. Electrical equipment, including voltage regulators, switches, also oil stuff, cable insulation, thermal insulation, adhesives, tapes, oil-based paint, caulking, plastics, carbonless copy paper, floor finish. Like, it's the girls' chemical. It's chemical for the girls. The industry girls' chemical.
And PCB we trust.
In PCB we
It
trust.
sounds absolutely delicious and like I want to add it to my morning coffee.
Oh, God. You're going to regret saying that in 2 episodes.
Jesus Christ.
You're going to regret saying that almost immediately, I should say.
Wow.
But this chemical is sold to industries and also to war efforts, right?
Classic.
Like, it is to build big shit, period.
Oh, like Iron Man.
Like
That's
Iron Man.
That's the plot of Iron Man.
So they incorporate this town to become a giant fucking factory for PCBs, successfully, might add. Quote, thus the village served its exact purpose as the name suggests. Ground zero for the production of 99% of PCBs used for industrial purposes in the United States from the 1930s through the 1970s.
Whoa.
99% from Sauget, Illinois.
Yo, fucking shouts.
To give you an idea of what the town... Can you imagine living in this town? I want you to think about it real quick before I tell you what the town was like to live in. A tax levy is the total amount of property taxes that a school district must collect to like balance its budget, or like a tax levy is for the whole municipal town. Like we have to do school, we have to do a fire department, we have to do this.
Like infrastructure for everyone and the children.
The tax levy is the basis for determining the tax rate for each cities, towns, or villages that make up whatever. In Monsanto, the tax rate in 1926 for the year was 13 cents.
Holy shit.
That doesn't sound like a lot of money.
No. So as you can imagine, there's like no fire department, there's no schools.
This is a libertarian paradise.
Right? I could not leave this thread of thought alone, so I kept digging. I found Mike Seeley's incredibly titled article for the Riverfront Times, quote, Funky Town, smokestacks, strip joints, and seriously solid tax base. Welcome to Sauget, Illinois.
Strip joints.
Please read the
It's
article for yourself,
poppin'
but
out
let's
here.
talk about Sauget. Again, I need you to really imagine what it's like to raise your children here, grow up here, whatever. Okay, first of all, the town literally has no grocery store. You have to hit the next town over.
Let's go.
It has stayed at a population of about 300 people. And then this is a quote from the article. Quote, 249 people, says American Bottoms Conservancy President Kathleen Adrena, quoting Sauget's actual population per the 2000 census. Quote, who are they? Where are they? Why are they here? They have 4 streets, all of which are named after Monsanto executives.
Oh my God.
Their current police department chief became chief at the age of 26.
Okay, wait, that's kind of a slay.
What the town lacks in grocery stores or a functioning school system, it makes up for having a 24-hour gentleman's club strip that explicitly markets towards drunken businessmen blowing over from St. Louis.
24 hours.
It's 24 hours. You can get alcohol at any point at this
Place
24-hour
rocks.
strip joint strip. Because it's like three
It's a
separate...
street.
It's a street. It's like 3 separate strip joints.
So
called, like,
one
Pops,
out of the
Oz.
4 streets in this town is dedicated to the boys who have accidentally ended up there from St. Louis.
Let's go.
There have been 37 class action lawsuits, all settled, that Sauget police officers turn a blind eye to the strip club bouncers, like beating the shit out of patrons. Sauget has 16 police officers,
Got pimp
which,
girls.
as of 2020, with a population of 141, that means 10% of its population is cop.
Jesus Christ.
And the head of the cop is 26.
He was 26 and he is.
Jesus.
I like it.
And 25% of the streets are strip clubs.
50% of this doesn't sound all that bad.
You're like, I kind of want to get some property there. They do have a minor league baseball team and a baseball stadium.
See, that's what I'm saying.
But again, can't emphasize there's no school.
It's a food desert.
The
There's no
streets are the
education. We got baseball and strippers. It kind of rocks.
Okay, but if the population is 10% cop and there are 9 people needed to play baseball with no alternates.
You can play for them even if you're not from Sauget. That's how minor league baseball works. Not to get into a
Okay.
baseball thread. But yeah, people, I don't know who the hell is coming in
Who
to play.
fills the stadium?
Me.
Yeah, literally us. We're going to I think they're the Grizzlies. We're
Grizzlies?
going. Yeah, they're the Grizzlies. They slap. I actually don't know.
Sauget Grizzlies.
That sounds like something like the nonsense that a drunk person would say. This is such a grizzly.
That sounds like slurring.
Dude.
So this total control over a town where they pay very little taxes and have literally no regulation on it is how they become the key PCB producer in
Do
the
they not
upcoming...
have a hospital?
No.
No doctors? No
It's
nurses?
paradise. You need these things.
Yeah, honestly, it is a libertarian paradise.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So that is how they become a key PCB producer in the upcoming World War II, which is how the business gets so big. This is just one example to show you the business strategy, which is incorporate a town.
Yeah.
I don't know why you
not a
haven't
bad
thought of it,
plan.
struggling businesses, incorporate a town. So anyways, 1928, so that's 2 years after Sauget, Illinois is founded, John Francis Queenie hands over the reins to his son. The second Supreme of Monsanto, Edgar Monsanto Queenie. He's 5'7".
Short king.
Average king. Average king.
Average?
Nah, if you ain't 6 foot, you short. Ain't no average kings. It's not. Ain't a spectrum around here. It's a binary.
That's famously what this podcast is all about.
Yeah, it's all about sorting people into good and bad, and all of them are ugly.
He reigned from 1928 to 1960. He left no heirs and died in 1968. So he's the final Monsanto to be the king of Monsanto.
Monsanto Prime.
He again was 5'7". He and his wife married in October of 1919-ish. According to one bizarre ancestry site, I have no idea if this is true. It seems that he and his wife maybe had a son who died tragically young, so he left no heirs. Final Monsanto head. He was handed the reins in 1928, and the company went on to the stock exchange in 1929.
Let's go.
Which is
Whoa.
one month before the crash.
Oh, no.
Whoopsies. Here's the thing, though. He had already been working at Monsanto for a few years and was key to its sustainability and longevity in a few ways. As mentioned, Monsanto entered its World War II era and slayed the entire war. This is key in its growth, the war effort. They had stepped away from commercial products and went into more back-end industry stuff, production of rubber, salicylic acid, antiseptic stuff for soldiers, PCBs to make engines and planes, you understand kind of where they're going? Here's what they started making in World War II, DDT.
Oh, no.
That's drugs, right?
No, I think you're thinking of DMT.
Well, I've shown my hand.
DDT is an insecticide.
Yeah, it's an insecticide. It's a
thank you.
pesticide,
Yeah, I knew
and
that.
it became the reason that Silent Spring was written.
That was the exact sentence I had next. Rachel
Yeah.
Carson wrote about it
Jesus.
at length in her earth-shattering work, Silent Spring. I once did a comedy show called History Schmistery where I did a bit as Rachel Carson. I haven't read the book though. I feel bad. But the presentation I did was looking at all the negative reviews of Silent Spring and then just calling the reviewers ugly. That was the whole bit.
That's great.
Anyways, the production of DDT as an insecticide for our troops in World War II is a huge part of Monsanto's bottom line. That is basically all we're going to talk about with DDT. I don't have an episode on it because I had a lot more to talk about. But it's disastrous for the environment, as you can imagine.
You spray DDT, the bugs die, the birds eat the bugs, and then it messes up the birds so that their eggshells are really thin, or sometimes the shells don't form at all, and so it made bird populations like plummet.
Oh my God.
And that's why the book is called Silent Spring, because if there are no birds, then the spring is silent.
Oh my that's so sad.
Can you give me your best tweet, like a bird?
Hang on. I was going to whistle and trill at the same time.
Whoa, wait, that's really good.
Thank you. I've been working on that one.
That's all the birds in Harlem.
Anyways, speaking of World War II,
Transition.
You know one of the most nakedly atrocious acts that humanity has ever committed? The dropping of 2 atomic bombs on civilian Japanese cities? Monsanto was a key part in that development.
Why did it sound like a stand-up joke? hey, you know what's one of the worst atrocities in human history? Dropping an atomic bomb.
But ask my wife and she'll say it was my shit last night.
Shouldn't have invited you two on the podcast.
Oh God, I came on here and I'm gonna get canceled.
Monsanto was a key part in developing the atomic bomb.
Hold on, can I just say
Yes.
that when I was in high school, I had an English teacher who corrected my pronunciation of Hiroshima.
Damn.
I'm literally Japanese.
I was like, oh.
Was the teacher white?
Yes.
Of course he was. I didn't need to ask, but of course.
He did insist for the entire week of the unit that it was Hiroshima.
Oh, God.
I feel like that's the way that white people try to pronounce it that sounds more accurate, to
Yes.
them.
Oh,
Hiroshima.
yeah. It is ethnic to the white brain. Much like P.F. Chang's.
Yeah. Pretty Flacco Changs. Let's go.
Oh, my God.
Charles Allen.
Waka Chang.
I'm steamrolling you two now. Charles Allen Thomas, who's going to succeed Edgar Monsanto Queenie as the next Supreme.
Not a Monsanto, though.
Not a Monsanto. He's the next Supreme, but he had been working in Monsanto's research and development teams throughout World War II.
Okay.
He was offered to be the co-director of the Manhattan Project with Robert Oppenheimer. And he declined. Yeah. I think he just didn't want to move. He's like, I can't build these bombs. I like my house. But he was key in the atomic bomb anyway in a different way, just closer to home. Anyways, per the Atomic Heritage Foundation, which is it's a website, quote, in 1943, the MED, no idea what that is, tasked the Monsanto Chemical Company with separating and purifying the radioactive element polonium, which was used to be the initiator for the atomic bombs. So that was Monsanto's part, getting the chain reaction to start.
No, not them being the start button.
So they'd already figured out that they could make a bomb that separates atoms, causing the massive chain of fission or whatever that explodes. But Monsanto did the Dayton Project, which is the part that made the initiator of the bomb in Dayton, Ohio. Here's the bit that's about musical theater. They had originally taken over a former seminary in Dayton to do the Dayton Project, but it was getting too big, so they expanded into a community playhouse.
Oh,
musical theater.
Does it still exist?
I think it does. Quote, the massive glass-topped playhouse included a luxurious ballroom, indoor tennis and squash courts, a stage and a balcony, a spacious greenhouse, card rooms, and a lounge.
A lot of talent shows
that-
have saved that place.
One more time?
Said a lot of talent shows have saved that place.
It became a site where Monsanto successfully completed the Dayton Project, thereby solidifying its relationship with the U.S. government and its place within the U.S. war machine, which would be a helpful tool that's used later.
No.
War machine.
Charles Allen Thomas, he's the next Supreme of Monsanto between 1960 and 1965. He married 2 separate women named Margaret. And his Wikipedia page is basically a list of toxic substances that he helped make.
Oh, no.
Because he was a prolific scientist in that he made a lot of garbage.
Classic.
Classic. So to review, at this point, Monsanto is in the business of aspirin, antiseptics, basic pharmacy like that, but also building products used in stuff like the inside of cars to atom bombs, but also herbicides and chemicals like DDT explicitly for agriculture. So we've got quite a few arms of Monsanto at this point.
Nice.
Under Charles Allen Thomas, Monsanto is renamed the Monsanto Company. I guess it was just Monsanto before, mono name. I guess to acknowledge the fact that it does have such a diverse product line at this point.
Nice.
The next Supreme, Edward O'Neill, 1965 to 1968, question mark. Shit was volatile under Monsanto, or at Monsanto under this guy's tutelage. I don't care enough to elaborate, but that's just Monsanto's chaos era.
Okay.
Vietnam is going to be the best thing that ever happens to this company, and it will be the subject of episode 2. This is during O'Neill's tenure and continued under the next guy, but that's all O'Neill gets. Fucking Edward O'Neill. John Hanley, 1970 to 1983. Christ on the cross, this guy has seen a lot. He helped form the first National Advisory Board of the Salvation Army and served as its first chairman.
Callback.
Post Monsanto, he dedicated much of his life to opening clinics for people suffering from alcoholism, I guess. Doesn't say it anywhere, but this guy's very into God, I think.
Shouts.
That is John W.
man of
Hanley.
W.
John W. During a lot of environmental scandals for Monsanto, that's under John W. Hanley. Per companyhistories.com, quote, under Hanley, Monsanto more than doubled its sales and earnings between 1972 and 1983, which is batshit. Much of this growth is thanks to Hanley's dedication to breaking into the agriculture business. Specifically, he hired a scientist, Howard Schneiderman, who made huge advances in the plant technology field. Quote, in a 1998 interview with the Post-Dispatch, Ernest Jaworski, another lead scientist at Monsanto's dawn of genetic engineering, deflected credit for the company's resulting products to Hanley for, quote, giving a maverick scientist a chance to explore topics outside the corporate comfort zone and for pointing Monsanto down a non-traditional research path.
What does that mean?
He means that they made a lot of evil shit under this guy.
Yeah, dog.
Corporate comfort zone is like killing me. It's like, yeah, it is outside the corporate comfort zone to make like genetically modified organisms. They're just gonna like swallow so many fields. Anyways, that's a little foreshadowing for later.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
Anyways, Monsanto doubles its sales even during this growing environmental movement of the 60s to 80s. This is in large part, I'd imagine, because pivoting into crops and farming as opposed to toxic building materials. It became its bread and butter. Are we following so far? How are we doing?
I think so.
Great.
Yeah.
This does sound like the plot of Iron Man.
Right? The whole thing, I'm going to reveal at the end, is a Marvel movie. In an interview with Business Week, Howard Schneiderman, the maverick scientist who invented a lot of evil shit, said, quote, to maintain our markets and not become another steel industry, we must spend on research and development. So, and this is, end quote, Monsanto, which had committed 8% of its operating budget to research and development, which is a lot, far above the industry average, busted into the 90s as one of the leaders in the fields of biotechnology and pharmaceuticals, and were emerging from their nascent stages. So it's under Hanley's reign that Monsanto has a star attorney who's really good at his job.
No.
In fact, he's so good at his job that he one day makes it to the Supreme Court. His name is Clarence Thomas.
No.
Oh my God.
Clarence Thomas authored the majority opinion on JEM Supply versus Pioneer Hybrid, stating that, quote, newly developed plant breeds are patentable under the General Utility Patent of the United States.
You can patent a plant?
It's a surprise tool that will help us later.
Wow.
Oh. Okay, wait, so the surprise tools that will help us later is
getting a good relationship with the U.S. war machine, the government.
War Machine.
Having this law authored by somebody who used to work at Monsanto that will let you patent plant breeds. I forgot the third thing, but...
was it the town?
The town. Yeah, the town is a surprise tool that will help us later.
Good old C. Thomas is back in the saddle.
I cannot believe.
Right?
The worst advocate for interracial dating we've ever had.
Oh my God.
Out here just fucking it up one more time.
Everyone's got to be good at something.
Yeah.
And Monsanto is really good at a lot of horrible things.
Yeah. And
Shouts.
Clarence Thomas is far from the only person in the revolving door of Monsanto, the government agency, as we will find out.
Dang.
But, all right, next Monsanto Supreme, Richard J. Mahoney. He was from 1983 to 1994.
Shout out to Mr. Mahoney.
Mr. Mahoney.
Mahoney's.
So before we had God Freak Hanley, now we got Mahoney. Under Mahoney,
W. Hanley.
W.
Monsanto purchased G.D. Searle, which made NutraSweet sweetener. They also, though, G.D. Searle, had an IUD, I guess, that was going through literally hundreds of personal injury lawsuits when Monsanto acquired them.
God dang.
So then that put it under Monsanto, which is hilarious to me. Searle's copper IUD was drawing comparisons to the much worse Dalkin Shield. I don't know if you two know what that is, Dalkin Shield.
I am aware of IUDs as a phenomenon.
Imagine it's a shield.
It looks like a spider, basically. It had like a shit ton of legs. It was hard.
No.
I highly recommend
Damn,
the
that's what was
Nope.
pulverizing vulvas back then? Jesus Christ.
I highly recommend the Behind the Bastards episode of the Dalkin Shield for those uninitiated. Pulverizing vulvas?
What? What'd I say?
It doesn't go. It goes through the vulva into the ute. If anything, it's pulverizing people's cervixes.
That's worse.
It's the ute pulverizer. What I would classify Mahoney's reign as is the guy who stormed a lot of legal issues for Monsanto by restructuring the company, thereby dodging accountability. That is what happens a lot under Mahoney. From company history, quote, by the end of the 1980s, Monsanto had restructured itself to become a producer of specialty chemicals with a focus on biotechnology products. Despite these successes, Monsanto remained frustrated by its delays in obtaining FDA approval for bovine somatotropin, a chemical used to increase milk production in cows. That's a surprise tool that will help us later. Ding! The final year of the 1980s also marked Monsanto's listing for the first time on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Monsanto officials expected the listing to improve opportunities for licensing joint venture agreements. I don't know why the fuck I kept that in there. I had nothing to say about that. Monsanto was doing good. Period.
Business is booming.
It's crazy that it's on the Tokyo Stock Exchange several decades after they were instrumental in dropping the bomb on Hiroshima.
I'm glad you picked up on that thread. Maybe that's why I put it in there. I wrote this so long ago. I have no idea. You want to know who else served as a CEO, president, and later chairman of the board at G.D. Searle, which is acquired by Monsanto? Donald Rumsfeld, who wound up... Do you guys know who that is?
Nope.
All right, well. Wound up being the Secretary of Defense during both the Gerald Ford years and the George W. Bush years.
Damn.
Complete piece of shit.
Damn.
This Donald Rumsfeld fucking sucks.
Wasn't he mentioned in the Lockheed Martin episode?
Lockheed Martin.
Lockheed Martin.
I might have. He probably was. If not, I mean, that's all I have to say about it. Crazy that he was both the 13th and the 21st Secretary of Defense. Like, that's a long-ass career. To be clear, he was never at Searle when it was acquired by Monsanto, so he missed him by a year, but still, like, he had worked at a place that...
Right, he was in.
He was in. To reiterate, Mahoney's the guy who leads Monsanto through a bunch of environmental lawsuits in the 70s and 80s, restructures the company to be more focused on biotechnology, though this transition wouldn't be complete until the 90s, which is why the company wasn't taken down from the many lawsuits that we'll talk about in future episodes. Next, Robert B. Shapiro. He's our second to last guy. Shapiro was an early member of the board of directors at Theranos.
Oh my God.
Do you know what Theranos is?
Nope.
Elizabeth Holmes, girl boss, turtleneck, low voice,
Oh, shit. Okay.
blood company.
Yeah.
Huge scam.
Yeah.
He was an early member of the board of directors at Theranos.
Oh, hell yeah. Way to get on the ground floor.
He wasn't important enough to be in the Dropout, though. The Hulu
I
series.
love not being important enough to be in the docuseries.
He also served on the President's Advisory Committee on Trade Policy and on the White House Domestic Policy Review of Industrial Innovation.
Oh my God.
So this guy is like the Monsanto Supreme, goes just into the White House right
This
after.
is Ben Shapiro's father.
I actually didn't look it up. He could be. Monsanto completes its transition under Shapiro away from chemical production into agricultural biotechnology. This is the key period where the kind of evil that they are completely shifts dramatically, as we'll see in the episodes succeeding this one. I think company history does a pretty succinct job, and forgive the link of this quote. Quote, between the mid-1980s and mid-1990s, Monsanto had spent approximately $1 billion developing its biotech business. Although biotech was regarded as a commercially unproven market by some industry analysts, Shapiro pressed forward with the research and development of biotech products. And by the beginning of 1996, he was ready to launch the company's first biotech product line. Monsanto began marketing herbicide-tolerant soybeans, genetically engineered to resist Roundup, a surprise tool that will help us later. An insect-resistant cotton, beginning with 2 million acres of both crops. News of the encouraging results prompted Shapiro to make a startling announcement in October of 1996 when he revealed that the company was considering divesting its chemical business as a part of major reorganization into the Life Sciences Company. Because of Roundup and the genetically engineered seeds to resist Roundup, that is a big transition for Monsanto. And that will be like the latter half. The first three are going to be like about war, environment, stuff like that. The second three are going to be about animals, crops, shit like that, big data as well. Shapiro did just that. He sold off Monsanto's chemical company, dove headfirst into plants and seeds and shit. By the end of the 90s, Monsanto was unrecognizable from the company it used to be. Arguably, it became what people popularly know Monsanto to be. I'm being careful not to get too namey when it comes to Monsanto subsidiaries, just as it's impossible to already enough to keep track of everyone. But keep in mind that Monsanto gets some very big acquisitions in the 90s that just catapults it into monster territory.
Yeah.
All right, finally, Hugh Grant, our last CEO.
What?
His name is Hugh Grant. It's not that Hugh Grant. First and foremost, Hugh Grant is incredibly Scottish. The most Scottish man to live. I was going to show you a clip, and the first one I found of him talking was on a CBS morning segment. But I was stunned to find out that just before this interview, Mark Ruffalo, who was doing press for like the Hulk or something, was also
She-Hulk?
backstage and
Every
was
Wednesday?
fucking. No, this is 2013.
Oh, damn.
He was also backstage and took the time to go to Hugh Grant's green room to fucking yell at him.
Shout out to Mark Ruffalo, man.
Mark Ruffalo
Ruff.
rocks. He recalls telling Hugh Grant, quote, "You are wrong. You are engaged in monopolizing food. You are poisoning people. You're killing small farms. You're killing bees. What you are doing is dead wrong." Wow. To which Hugh Grant says, "I think what we are doing is good."
Oh my god.
So,
Reply.
Mark Ruffalo is cool. And he said, and also, I didn't say it in the Scottish accent. I think what we're doing is pretty good. No, that's Irish.
I can't
That was
do it,
pretty
because
good,
I
though.
always switched it with Irish. I'm like, you're all redheads. Just fight and only be one.
Hugh Grant's time at Monsanto was marked by the ghosts of the past coming to take them down, global activism against the company, and massive political lobbying as the final death rattle from the agricultural giant, or the agrochemical giant. I've been a little quiet about Monsanto's political lobbying thus far, mostly because OpenSecret.org's profile on Monsanto only starts in 2003, which is when Hugh Grant becomes the supreme. I thought it'd be a good time to introduce the subject, but this is as far from the first time that Monsanto lobbied the government. You dig? So, from corporate Europe, in 2007, Obama promised U.S. citizens that the labeling of GM foods as a, quote, right to know what they buy. In many states, campaigns to get GM foods labeled took off. Monsanto, along with the food industry lobby Grocery Manufacturers Association, why do you keep that in, pushed at a federal level for a fake GM labeling act, dubbed by citizens as the Denying Americans the Right to Know Dark Act, as it would hide information about GM ingredients behind a barcode.
Oh.
It would also ban state-level GM labeling rules. The Dark Act was signed into law by Obama in summer of 2016.
Damn.
I mean, this is like exactly like the same mechanic by which so much of the world knows nothing about the specifics of Monsanto. It's like if you just add one extra step of like having to scan a barcode, then people just simply are not going to do it.
And to be fair, like, some people don't have smartphones to scan the barcode. People don't have the fucking time to stand there and scan the barcode of every product you're going to get at the grocery store. Like, are you kidding me?
It's 2020. You think how many people hate QR codes? Imagine.
I literally said it's 2020.
Oh, you're right. I've actually been stuck in a time loop this whole time.
Wow. Must have been really hard for you.
Stuff.
You're very brave. A ton more people are going through the revolving doors of Congress, like from Monsanto, per the same corporate year report. The most emblematic case is Michael Taylor, who had gone through the revolving doors 4 times during his career.
Wait, so he entered Monsanto, left
Government.
Monsanto, came back in, left again to go to the government, left.
Yep.
Oh my
That
goodness.
whole thing back.
Taylor first entered the U.S. Food and Drug Administration before becoming a lawyer for Monsanto. He then returned to the FDA in 91, then later moved to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. In both roles, he dealt with for U.S. policy on how to not regulate GM foods. Taylor then went back to working for Monsanto as the vice president until 2000. In 2010, the Obama administration appointed him again as a senior advisor to the FDA.
Oh my goodness.
Damn.
There's no conflict of interest there, boys.
No, absolutely.
Mama owes somebody some money.
In 2013, there was a worldwide march against Monsanto that made some pretty big news. In 2015, Monsanto cut 12% of its jobs. In 2016, Bayer bought Monsanto in a $66 billion cash-only deal, which was finalized in 2018.
Oh
right.
my goodness.
Right. You know how it
Count my
is.
money.
Yeah. And that is that's the overview of Monsanto so far. I have a big review of the overview, if we're ready.
I'm down.
Okay. Everyone feeling okay?
Yeah.
Okay, quote. That's me. I wrote this. So, to review, Monsanto began as a chemical company providing sweetener commercially and to Coca-Cola. By World War II, Monsanto had made a foray into the burgeoning domestic chemical production business, begins producing PCBs. Additionally, they helped the government build the fucking atom bomb, solidifying a positive relationship with the U.S. military. Concurrent with this development, Monsanto enters into 3 different U.S. cities that become major sites of pollution and human tragedy, unrelated. Post-World War II, Monsanto leans into its herbicide, which it had become a pioneer in. Between World War II and Vietnam, Monsanto acquires a bunch of businesses, gets more commercial products, etc. Vietnam happens, Monsanto engineers even more human rights atrocities in the form of Agent Orange.
Oh, no.
Surprise tool that'll help us later.
Oh, no.
Post-Vietnam, the environmental movement puts a damper on all that PCB and chemical production. The company starts leaning towards bioengineering, seeds, crops, different herbicides like Roundup. Early 2000s, the transition to agrochemical company is complete, but it's too little too late in that a bunch more lawsuits and consumer awareness happens. Monsanto is able to lobby for its own products to remain not banned by like the government or the Geneva Convention. I don't know. 2016, the company kicks the bucket in the Bayer acquisition. And I have my sources right here.
Wow.
How you guys doing? That's episode 1.
The American economy.
Yeah. So, you guys learned something today?
I did, actually.
What'd you learn?
Ben Shapiro's father was a businessman.
Clarence Thomas, Donald Rumsfeld, both Monsanto boys.
Monsanto gang, we roll deep out here.
If I may borrow a word from Amy, we're the Monsanto hoes. All right, how you feeling though?
I'm feeling pretty good. I want to hear another one of the Monsanto puns. You dropped one over breakfast.
Oh, Pokemon Santo. Gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon Santo. I want to catch Clarence Thomas
with these hands.
Alrighty then. That's episode 1. If you listen to that, perfect. You are primed up to skip to whatever episode you want after this. You know the general supreme timeline. You know kind of where Monsanto is going vis-a-vis its business acquisitions, its trajectory, whatever. And yeah, that's it. So I'm going to see you two in about 1 second when we record the next episode and then the next one and then the next one. That has been Busted Business Bureau, Season 3, Episode 1, Monsanto, the Supreme Overview. We slay. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Gang.